now. So, hey guys, welcome to the first time all five of us are together in front of the camera. We got Tim over here as Buchaka. We got Whitney as Alana. We got Brandon, who still hasn't done an interview yet, but that's okay. But he is Haldra. And then we've got Andrew over there as Grunin. And then I am, of course, the Master, Shane, Dungeon Master, Shane. And this is kind of like an intro to the world of Velkarth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay something for you guys to see on the screen, which is the map of Velkarth, which is also on our website at chronosandkin.com. You can see it above my head, and on Facebook at Chronos and Kin. So you guys have your map. I'm going to pull up my internet browser real quick and get to my Google Docs. So that whole map is Velkarth, and it's the world within D&D that you guys are playing in. And what I did is I left the map quite empty. I gave you guys the main cities, and then I put the first couple of locations that you guys are going to go to during the campaign. The reason I left it empty is I want us to explore the world together and not give you guys a map that's filled out, and you guys just like, okay,
Go here.
yeah, I just want to go to this place. No, you guys, you know, Whitney, your character is from the Arvindale Woods, deep within the woods. You were there until just recently. You don't know the outside world, but I'm sure you would have learned at some point the major places in the map. So it would do your character no good to have a map full of all these ruins from long ago or whatever. Same kind of with Buchaka. You were in a farming village when it got raided during the Great War. You know, Haldra would probably be the only character that would have a full map. Even Grunin, who was in war campaigns, wouldn't have a full location of the world. So that's kind of my thinking behind it for you guys.
Okay.
But I want to kind of start out with the history a little bit of Velkarth. So as you can see, it's like one big continent. And my thought process is on the same realm that D&D normally takes place. It's just a giant planet. And so there's going to be continents that aren't main place for some stories, for others. And there's a chance that we hop on an airship at some point and go to these, Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter or whatever. But it's not, I didn't want those same repetitive stories for you guys that you've seen in movies or read in books or played in video games, because those places have already been described for you, so you don't get to visit anywhere new. So that's kind of the idea of building my own continent within the D&D realm. So a little history of the world. I would say that this continent has been like a home to humanoid creatures for like 1,000 or so years. At one point, it was kind of just gods, and I would say that would apply to the world of D&D as a whole. It was just the gods, that kind of normal creation story. And at one point, they decided to put mortal life with varying degrees of longevity, right? Elves can live hundreds of years, stuff like that. Dragons live so long. So I wanted to give kind of the whole world that view. It started off with the gods. They put humanoids in these places. And at one point, there was a god that got a little power hungry. And that caused the first of the Great Wars. And that one was just between the gods themselves. Humanoids felt that war. A war between gods causes catastrophes and cataclysms and earthquakes and floods and all of these things to happen. So that's why you see the uncharted old world to the far south of your map. Is those mountains by Dur Khazal didn't exist until the gods had this battle. And since those mountains came up, there's anyone who's gone south of those mountains hasn't come back. We don't know for good or bad, but they haven't come back. So the dwarves kind of set themselves up, one, because they're fucking dirty rock people, right? So they set themselves up in the dirty rocks. And so they're kind of that last protection of people going into the uncharted lands. That's kind of something they've tasked themselves with keeping because every expedition that's gone there has never returned. And that's also why you have these rivers that are kind of closing off, Mistari from the Crimson Vale or Glenmere Vale from the rest of the world. Those rivers, all that kind of came up at the same time. But the gods also did something that's not precedented, and that's because one of their best, brightest gods got so power hungry, it scared them. So once this god was taken care of, a god can't die, but they were able to take care of him in a way that they felt he wouldn't be a threat anymore. They closed themselves off. And so now in modern times, you have groups of monasteries like Buchaka is from that still believe in the gods of old. And you have different elves have gods that they pray to that they still believe are there because in these holy places there are still miracles, but the world as a whole doesn't see miracles anymore. The gods really shut themselves off from everybody during this time. So now you have humanoids that they have no one to answer to, right? The most powerful kings or noblemen or business owners, they have no one to answer to but whoever tries to take their seat of power. So that's where you kind of have now is Crimson Vale. Dusk Hollow is the big city in the middle with the big tall black tower. That's kind of your, for lack of better terms, like a capital of Velkarth. All major trade routes go into and out of the Crimson Vale and to Dusk Hollow in specific. And all races live in Dusk Hollow. It is the New York City of Velkarth. Gnomes, elves, humans, they all freely live and do business within Dusk Hollow. You have Dur-Khazal, that's the dwarven capital city. So again, everything you're seeing on your map is a capital. For the most part, there's 2 human cities, but one's a capital. Dur-Khazal's built into the side of a volcano. It's an active volcano, but they're able to keep it from ever erupting through goofy dwarven technology, right? And that's where their seat of power is, and they reign all the way up to where you see the river is, so that's all dwarven lands. And I tried to give you guys good landmarks. Glenmere Vale, that's where your gnomes and halflings hail from in this realm. So that's just north a little bit of Dur-Khazal. So Glenmere Vale, some say there's still some fey, fairy, fey influences still happening within Glenmere Vale. And then there is a historically mythological path. That's that purple dotted line you'll see that goes from Glenmere Vale to the Arvindale Woods. Those are the Fey tunnels. And they're said to be living tunnels that only the elves and gnomes and halflings know how to use. No one's proved it because if it was real, right, the elves, halflings, and they wouldn't want to let anybody know. But it's a way to get between those two kind of Fey peoples easily without arising suspicion. North of there, you have the Thelvarin coast, and there's a big forest and a river that kind of separates them from Crimson Vale. Those are the humans. The Valebrand's Rest, that's the capital city of the humans, but Vanguard Steppe is another major city. Like most human cities, you do have a small mix of other races living there, but very small. It's usually refugees or explorers, specific artisans that felt they could make more money. So you're not going to encounter necessarily a lot of other races in each other's lands, but humans usually are the ones that are more welcoming to other races. Urgor's Waste, back way south next to the Dwarven area, where you have Scar Moor. Those are Orcish lands, and kind of like what the U.S. military did to the natives during the Great War, the Orcs had a lot more territory, and they were shoved and placed down there in the Urgar wastes by the united front of the humans, elves, dwarves, etc. And that allowed for Mistari to kind of take place. Mistari is your tieflings and kind of other races, right? So you're not your normal everyday races. And it's a floating city. Misra I can't remember how I pronounce that in my head. We'll get back to that. Miserel. And so Miserel is a floating city, and there's a very large airship port there. So all airship travel starts and ends in Mirzell. Mirzarel. I'll never pronounce it right ever again.
Still didn't.
I know.
Isariel?
Yeah. We'll call it whatever we want. We'll call it Tiefling World. And so you don't just walk into that city, right? Like they have to know you're coming, and they'll airship you or balloon you up into that city. But
Have like a pass.
I don't know.
I haven't gotten there yet.
And then of course you have Leth Moraine, far north in the Arvindale Woods, and that's all Elven territory from the woods, that Green Plains area, to the Silveran River. All of that, and then those foothills there too, that keep that place with Ralderain. That's all Elven land, but where Ralderain is on the other side of the river is like sacred land. It's ruins, it's old lands. And so the elves believe that their people lived there with the gods when they were still around. And then we get to Crimson Vale, the big center with Dusk Hollow. So the Great War ended probably 5 years from where we take onto this story. And right at the end of the Great War, a very wealthy nobleman by the name of Joffrey kind of came up in Crimson Vale. He created a world banking system. The ability to get gold, copper, and silver to all the major cities, increase trade, but it all funnels through Dusk Hollow and Crimson Vale to Joffrey. His bank is called the Crimson Vault. And it's just this big dark pillar that sticks out of the sky. The Crimson Vault backs all of its money with relics. So kind of like all of our dollars are backed with gold, all the gold in Velkarth is backed by relics from the ancient time. And so to keep being able to increase the amount of tangible monies in the world, as a banker would do, he needs to collect more relics. So far, right now, on this new gold standard in Velkarth, there's only 12 relics that are in the bank. So what you'll find out a little more about next time is you all have been hired to join his relic acquisition team. And he has relic acquisition teams all over the world searching for these relics of the gods. To kind of increase, to set and cement a foothold within the banking system, to where pretty much he'll be in charge of all monies that go through, and then his lineage would also have that. So that's kind of a description of the realm you're playing in. So there are several factions within Velkarth. And these are factions that you may come across, that you may be or have been a part of, or that you want to join. I just have to get down there, sorry. I have so many notes built on just each city. I think each city has 5 pages worth of notes, 2 of them being NPCs. So if you guys make me create a fucking NPC, I'm not gonna know what to do.
I'm gonna ask for everything. Backstory,
Yeah, we'll just
interest.
mute your fucking mic. Do you want to know more about the gods before we get onto the factions? Is that something that interests you guys?
Of
Like I
course.
have names for each of the gods.
I'm sure that'll
Um,
come up
yeah, I mean
naturally.
it will, but is there anything in particular you're wanting to know about the gods? So it is a pantheon. There are major gods and minor gods. The minor gods are kind of more like children, and they're the ones that usually are the ones creating the current miracles, right? They're the ones that are like, that's fucking boring.
So the relics that were after, were they created by the gods or they byproducts?
The relics back the gold in the world of Velkarth, and you're hired to get them, and you get paid for your job.
Enough for me.
So we'll go to the factions. There is one god that I do want you to know about before we go to the factions. And that's Auren, Auren. He is called the Dawn Father. He was the first one to completely seal himself away. His domain is the sun, light, justice, and renewal. So he is the god that most paladins would associate themselves with. But for clerics and paladins, it's kind of a weird time because you're supposed to have such a strong connection with your god as a cleric and paladin. And there's these just minor feelings that they might still maybe be there. So paladins are trying to do their good, and same with clerics in this realm to show that the gods can come back.
So with that,
Mm-hmm.
do the clerics and paladins feel a weakness in their power because he's sealed away, or
No, they don't feel weakness in their power. I think that taking that away from the humans, the gods wouldn't have found that just. They sealed themselves away because they were afraid of themselves. They didn't seal, and no, there's just this lack of just that normal D&D knowledge that the gods are there. They're not coming down and going, "Hey, what's up?" Right? It's just like they're there, and no one knows why they feel so absent from the gods. The gods didn't announce, "Hey, we're locking ourselves away." It's just kind of this thing. And there are at times at monasteries where there's a strong connection from time to time with the gods, but it's an instant. It's like you feel like you did the right thing, and that god kind of just came and went and is gone again. So they're still there and listening, but no one just things don't feel right. There's not a lot of understanding. And then let's see. All right. So there are several factions. The first one that everyone knows about is the Crimson Vault. I call it a faction because it's a very large organization. It's the bank of the world. There's Crimson Vault locations in every major city and in even some minor villages and towns. It's a banking syndicate, a relic recovery network. And it's headed by Joffrey Vane. Okay. And you'll get more into the Crimson Veil. But there is also I just went back to the top of the faction breakdown. There it is. All right. So then you have the Silent Veil. it's a very the structure of this faction is quite unknown. What we do know is when someone contacts the Silent Veil, somebody else dies. What is done in silence echoes forever. That's all anyone knows of the Silent Veil. What's done in silence echoes forever. You have your hippie circle, the Verdant, Verdant, Verdant circle. This is your druids. They're everywhere that there's a large natural touch, and then unfortunately, in some places, to their dismay, where they can get the numbers, like there is a Verdant circle in Dusk Hollow, but Dusk Hollow is a place of industry and machinations, not so much. So they don't like being there. And then Alarin Moonglade is the Arc Druid. Elaren Moonglade. She's the Arc Druid. And they have a slogan as well that people know. It's when blood touches root, rot begins. So they are very much defending nature. You have a mercenary group. They are called the Iron Pact. We bleed so others don't have to, but only if they pay.
What was
Very, huh?
what was the name of that one?
Iron Pact.
Iron Pact.
They are the standard muscle for hire. You're afraid to travel. We'll send a couple guys with you as you take your cart from your town to the city to sell your goods type thing. It'll cost you some gold, but you'll get there safely, right? They stand on record. Recently, they have changed leadership, and so now Iron Pact's kind of an unknown. Thorin Blackgrit, I think that's his last name. I'd have to look at my notes, but his first name is Thorin. He was the leader for many years, and he just got tired of the constant fight, struggle, all that kind of stuff. Retired from that, and now works as a relic hunter. And now Marshal Vex is the guy in charge of the Iron Pact, a human war hero from the Great War. You have the Arcanum Obscura. The magic must be known before it can be feared. The Arcanum Obscura, obviously, is the Mages Guild. They are more about studying and becoming better about magic, but they will also secure and experiment with magical items, especially relics. So they're not at odds with the Crimson Vault necessarily, but they definitely want to play with the relics before they get to the Crimson Vault. Now, there are a couple of lesser known groups. Their names are kind of whispered within Velkarth. This one is an ancient group of knights from the time of the gods. Everyone thinks that it was just a story. They're called the Wardens of the Hidden Flame. And that's all you know about them. And another equally old and equally mysterious order of knights. But as of recent time, there has been one man within Velkarth that has claimed to be part of the Order of the Ashen Vow. Not much is known. But one person who did come in contact with him said Someone questioned his honor, and their whole group was beheaded instantly. Honor means a lot to the Order of the Ashen Vow, and that's all we know. And then, just so you guys know, and I'm going to leave a lot of it a secret, but we are homebrewing quite a few things. And I want the people that would watch this video to know that we're homebrewing, so they don't tell me I did something wrong as the DM. If something sounds cool and it bends the rules a little bit, but it doesn't break the game, more than likely, I'll see if it plays out. Because cool and story trumps rules in my book. Like, again, if it's game breaking, I'm not going to allow it. You know, you can't climb up a dragon's face and pluck his eye out and get away with it without a scratch. But, you know, doing something goofy to a dragon that someone wouldn't do, I'll allow it, right? The other thing is there's going to be abilities that you guys will come across the ability to obtain. I know it sounds very cryptic, and it is for a reason. Those are going to change the fabric of the game itself at some point, or not. But there's these abilities change the game completely. The one major thing is that I would definitely want you guys to take note of is there is a homebrew rule called like Healing Surge or something like that. You guys are very lacking on people with healing abilities as a team. So Healing Surge allows you to, how I'm going to allow you to use Healing Surge is once per long rest, you can roll your hit dice and gain that much health. So, like, Tim, as you level up, you gain ways to heal yourself, but just Tim. You guys may have the ability to do minor casting spells and stuff like that, but you guys may be out from town from being able to buy potions and stuff for weeks on end.
And they may not even have any.
Right. So, I want you guys to have the ability to not die all the time. We're starting off at level 3, which gives you a better fighting chance. But yeah, the Healing Surge thing, you roll, it's your hit dice, which I think everybody has 4 hit dice or something like that.
Let's see. Let me look at my character. I'm different. Everyone's different. And I've already leveled mine up, so I can roll. Is it? I think it's 3d12.
Okay. So you can roll up to your maximum amount of hit dice. But that's once per long rest. So if you're going to use it, you know, make it worthwhile, because who knows when you're going to get your next long rest. The other thing I'm going to do is not necessarily get into the fatigue side of things. You know, if you don't long rest once every 24, 48 hours or whatever, you start getting fatigue points. I'm not going to hit you with fatigue points. What I'm going to do is increase the AC of your enemies to a point that I see fit that's not going to keep you from being able to hit them, to represent your tiredness.
Question in that.
Yeah.
Is that only if we don't sleep?
Yes.
Okay.
That's only if you don't sleep.
I just want to make sure because
Yeah.
I get fatigue for what I do.
Right.
I want to make sure.
And for you, if you take a fatigue point from what you do, let me know, and I will adjust things accordingly for you alone.
It's what it is. It's frenzied rage. Every time I frenzy rage, when it ends, I gain a point of exhaustion.
Right. So you're not going to get the exhaustion. Things are just going to be a little bit more difficult for you. And I have created a chart based on how many points of exhaustion and like the max I'll allow AC to go per level of your character. So I have a format for it. So it's not just like, I want you to hit this guy. I want this battle to last a while. I've got a chart and a table and all that kind of stuff. So, the last thing I wanted to touch on is cities and shops. So there's going to be shops in every city. I will let you know at the end of a session if I think the next session you're going to be in a town or a place where there's going to be shops. If there's something in specific each of you is looking for, you can, we have the sticky notes. Write it on the sticky note, write your name on it, and give it to me. And I'll see if there's something I'm willing to add into the shops while you're there. If there's specific things you need. Again, we're not worried about ingredients and components for spells. I think that's a bit much. But if it's the voice, symbol, or motion, the VSM next to your spell, you have to tell me, and I'll remind you. But like if you're casting healing word, I'll go, well, what's the word you're using to heal? I want you to actually, or if it's asking for a symbol, what are you doing with your hands to make this happen?
Vocal, somatic.
Yep.
Material.
So I'm not worried about material. But if we start getting to a point, and not many of you have spells like this, like wizards and warlocks do, none of you guys are sorcerers or warlocks, where it's just like, oh, I have a genie in a bottle, I cast wish to put the genie in there, and then I made the genie cast wish, so it didn't count against my wish, and then they wished 18. I'm just going to shut it down. It gets to a point where it's not fun.
So say you wanted to craft a potion of healing, and you need all these ingredients. Would we just say, hey, I need potion of healing, and you might make that available?
So if you wanted to craft it for whatever reason, yeah, I'd let you buy the materials and craft it, and more so talking about spells.
Okay.
Because crafting is fun. If that's something you want your character to do in downtime, and you just let me know, hey, I'm crafting this, I'm good with that, because you have some very unique crafting things that are like they wouldn't normally be together. Yeah.
Okay, in that regard, you say components. What about spells? So, like, say the spell doesn't require components; it requires you to have an item on you that's worth a set amount of gold.
I'm not. No.
Okay.
Yeah. No. So pretty much, if you do the major step is making sure you're like you for sure.
Yeah.
You have to spend the time preparing the spell. If you use a spell and it's required to be prepared, chances are it won't be in your D&D Beyond as a usable spell the next time you play. Okay, so we're going to use the D&D Beyond, and when you cast a spell, you click that you casted it, whatever. If it takes components out of your thing, that's fine, because there's components in you guys' inventories now, and they can just go away. If it tries to take gold, just I think I have that turned off, but if it takes gold out of your inventory, let me know how much you lost, and I'll just add it back in. And then for if there's things that your character wants to do, but those things take time, technically speaking, if you end a session at camp or in an inn or whatever, if you let me know, then you guys are doing those things in that time between sessions. I don't need you to spend in-game time doing something. And mainly we're going over these things, and this is more for the people watching, because everybody's so new. I want to make sure we're kind of hitting rules that would come up. Stuff like, you're an elf. Elves don't have to sleep for the minimum of 4 to 8 hours. You can meditate for half that time and get a full rest.
It's meditate for 4 hours versus sleeping for 8.
So when you're at camp and something has an hour or two cost to it, you can do that and take the long rest. For everybody else, it would be more beneficial for them to do those things in between sessions and have it prepared for the next session, because if we're staying at a camp, we'll pick back up at camp and move to that story going forward. We're not going to be like, all right, and now you guys are in this town. You're going to have to get from camp to where you're going. So there's crafting and spells. Like, you have stuff that takes a few hours to do. So we're going to play it that way with that kind of stuff.
I sharpen my axe.
Yep. And then each of you has been given kind of a homebrew item or weapon. So they're not made to be game breaking. They are made to be modular, so we can add to them and make them better as we play. So don't feel like, if you feel like the weapon you're using is hindering you, like you don't want to use it because it's now bad, let me know, because each of those things is a piece of you, and I want that piece of you to grow as you grow. So if you start noticing, because I'm going to be sitting here, you guys are going to be rolling your dice and telling me your damages. I'm not going to really be in the mindset to go, man, they're getting a really lot of low rolls. It might be their weapon. Like, their weapon's still a D4 when people are rolling D10s or D12s on their weapons now. I'm just going to be like, okay, yeah, you dealt 3 damage. Woo, good job. So just kind of keep me informed of how you feel your character's going. If we need to make adjustments, we can. And not everybody's stuff is combat, but just so everybody kind of on the same page, if you feel like even your non-combat item is lacking in what it should be doing at this point in the campaign, we can talk about it. So don't ever feel like you're stuck. Okay. Really, that's a good kind of intro to the world of Velkarth. Is there questions any of you guys had?
No,
Really?
no.
Not really.
No. So the 28th, I want to film our first session 0. Do you have a laptop to use, or do you want to use mine again?
I do have a laptop that I can use.
Okay.
Either way, it's big and bulky.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, with the table and the table getting bigger, it should be fine.
Yeah. And honestly, the view is set high up on the table anyway, so if you had it further back.
Yeah.
So I gave you guys new folders for this campaign versus the last campaign where I just wrote your name and stuff on them.
Thank you.
Bring your folders home. I would like to see what you guys come up with for the first session to represent your character. So as the DM, I represent everything. So I went ahead and I did that to my binder. So it doesn't have to be like super artsy fartsy.
Yeah.
But I did something that kind of gives me a symbol of each one of you, and then a symbol of the Kronos and Kin logo and everything. So it just hits home. I know that this is my Kronos and Kin folder. When I look at it, it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. That was representative of Whitney, or just kind of fun it up. It helps you get in the mindset and think more about your character, right? Like Whitney being an elf druid, hers is going to be more earthy and kind of hippie, right? Metaphysical and stuff like that. Whereas Andrew's is going to be like weapon rock, right? Like in comparison, not necessarily that's what it's going to be, but so yeah, little arts and craft homework just to get you thinking about your character before the session.
Cool.
So anything else?
No.
No.
So I think
Lots
I
of
think
learning
our
to do.
first, yeah, we're all going to learn together.
Yeah.
And so I think our first session is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a few hours, just because we're building up. So I gave you this backstory of the world. I have an intro that's going to bring a lot of what I told you together, and then we're gonna enter into the session, and you guys are gonna have some choices to make. There's not going to be any combat in session 0. It's an introduction.
Okay.
But you will have quite a bit of combat thereafter. So I know that's one thing you like. So I like to be transparent about that. Like, if it's going to be a RPG in the mind kind of session, I want to be able to let you guys know so you know what you're getting yourself into, so you're not disappointed. All
Where
right.
can I swing my axe?
Yeah, you can swing your axe whenever you want, but it might not be good. So I think that's it. This is going to go on to all the socials: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon, kronosandkin.com right there. And remember, starting the 28th, I'll probably release it the 30 days, half September, April, June, and the 1st of July. See how I did that? No. Had to remember which months had 30 days.
So the day before my birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. It'll be released on Patreon. So once we start recording the sessions for actual gameplay, because it's a reward for Patreon to get access to them a week early, they go on Patreon, and they're going to be there at least a week before we put them onto YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Otherwise, we don't have customers yet, but then we're not even giving them what they were promised. So if you guys want to go see them, I'll give you the master login for Patreon, and you guys can go take a look at them or whatever. But
cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Thanks for watching. This is your team. Andrew Grunin, Brandon Holdra, Whitney. Your name's Whitney, right? Sorry, I don't know. I can't remember my girlfriend's and my wife's. I can't. Ilana and Tim with Boo.
Chaka.
Nice. Later.
Later.